If you could go back to your first year of marriage and do things differently, what would you do? And we're going to share our answers today on Family Vision. Rob and Amy Reno here with Visionary Family Ministries. We just got done with our fall family worship night. It was awesome.
It was awesome. It was spectacular. We had a God intervention of truly miraculous weather.
Thunderstorms to the north and to the south kind of the whole time. And
Yeah.
the Lord just brought a lot of families together for a great time of worship and Bible teaching and fun and encouragement. And we are now getting ready for the Thanksgiving Ball, November 12th. If you are anywhere near Illinois, you are not going to want to miss this. And if Israel has ever been on your bucket list, we are doing our first ever Family Israel Tour, March 2024. So now is the time to get all the info on those events at visionaryfam.com. So, sweetheart, here's our question today. We just celebrated 29 years of marriage, but if we could go back to our first year of marriage, knowing what we know now, hopefully we know more now than we did then, I think we do. So what would we do differently?
Yes.
You want to start?
Yes, because I have a whole list of what
do
I would
too.
do differently.
We're going to compete with longer lists.
Well, but then I have like a positive little thing to cap it off with as well.
Positive's good.
Yeah, positive is good. Our first year of marriage, we were both finishing graduate school. Rob was working as a youth pastor, quote unquote, part-time. We all know that there's no such thing as part-time youth pastor work. He was also starting commuting to Trinity, which was an hour and away. I was doing an internship with my grad program. I was waitressing. We were really, really busy. So the number one I think of is that first year of marriage, how busy we were, how if I had to do it all over again, I would have been very intentional with date nights, that we would been like blocking out. We had some serious boundary issues, I feel like, because we were both extroverts. We were both in ministry. There was a lot of people who always wanted our attention. And if I had to do it again, I would have paid much more attention to it. Like every good marriage book you read says have an intentional date night. And we really didn't, and still struggle to this day. We kind of just, our marriage is great, or we don't have to follow that rule. That's sort of the way I thought about it.
So in love.
We were just we're so above those basic rules, basically. Just who needs them, But we did, and we still do. And so I wish we had started that pattern. And that's when we have done premarital counseling and even meeting with our own kids. We really encourage them to start that pattern year one.
Absolutely. Well, one for me, and no question, the number one thing for me, right from the beginning, I would have been praying with you every day. We spent, when we got married, I really neglected my spiritual care of you. Obviously, I was busy at church, very focused on ministry there, and we prayed before we ate, and we would pray if there was a crisis. But, the Bible talks about a man will leave father and mother, cleave to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. And we did the first two, right? Left father and mother, cleaved to each other, built a life together. But I
probably had trouble with the leaving. I was living near my parents too, so I did an okay job with the leaving.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you went
we only went back to live with them like 3 or 4 times.
But I'm saying, like, so yes, I would say we did. Yeah, there was some. Go on.
That's a separate podcast.
Okay. Separate podcast. Go on. Please continue.
But I think that neglect of my spiritual intentionality with you and being proactive in just daily prayer with you, even if it was 15 seconds or a minute or two, I think created a lot of loneliness for you spiritually, and understandably so. And a lot of people know our story. We go through it all in the Visionary Marriage book, but it really wasn't until 13 years into it. It wasn't just like year one. Oh, if I could go back to year one, I would have been intentional on providing more spiritual care and encouragement for you. That would be my year 2, year 3, year 4.
Right.
It was a lot of prayerless years.
Well, yeah, intentional
Couples prayer,
yes.
right.
Well, what we did do is we kept trying to get these really, if you remember, we had these cool marriage devotions that
Sure.
people had given us, and we would do them like we thought we're going to do this every night, or we're going to even do it twice a week, and we basically got through like 3 of them, in the whole book. And then it would
we
just,
finished
I
3
think
of
we
them?
did 3 full ones. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah. I remember it was James Dobson's like Nightlight or something.
Okay,
it was
well,
called.
I'm feeling better about
But
this then.
but I'm saying it was a whole book, and we did 3. That's what we did because
Like
it
3
was too
chapters?
much. Yeah, 3 full ones. But my point is that because we were trying to do these high level things,
Right.
we weren't even doing the basic thing of just praying together.
Because sometimes I remember a couple of times, like I would find like a couple's devotional out there. I'm like, oh, this will be perfect for us. And then the next step in that is to actually buy the devotionals. And there was some where I said, hey, we should do this. And like I didn't even get to the next
You
step
didn't even
of
get to
getting
buying it. Yeah.
the things home.
It is
So,
prior to Amazon, so you can give yourself some grace there because,
I don't know.
yeah. Well, another thing that I think was a big thing I would do differently revolves finances and budgeting. I definitely just assumed that my husband had it. I'm the opposite. There's some wives I know that are really like have to have their hands on that component of marriage. I was the opposite. I'm sure Rob's got this, the whole budget thing. And it was more of his world. We weren't communicating.
In other words, I'm paying the bills.
Yeah, you're
and doing
paying the
all that,
bills,
yeah.
and I, appreciated that, but I wasn't involved with stepping into intentional budgeting, and that again, you can get away with that, right, for a while, and then it just creates more and more conflict around finances. And that's again what we recommend to our kids, what we recommend in couples we do premarital is that you really want to be intentional starting that the first year. Start the habits when you feel like you don't really need the habit yet. But this is the time to start it. So
Yeah.
I would have done that differently.
Yeah. And I think my problem, when I was doing better with budgeting, we would sit down and we'd make a budget for the month. And we'd kind of get on the same page and say, okay, here's the income that we think is going to be coming in, and here's the budget. Well, it turns out that you also then have to track the budget through the month. And the making of the budget in the beginning of the month without tracking the budget through the month actually doesn't do
A whole lot
really
of
any
good.
good at all, because then we'd get to the end of the month, or we'd get to like the 3-week mark, and you'd be like, how are we doing on the budget? Like, I really don't know so much because I hadn't tracked the expenses. So there's the making of the budget and the tracking.
Right. And that is all something that, again, if I had to do it again, I wish we had people speaking into our lives. And I'm sure there were, like in the premarital counseling times, but I think that's so often the struggle with couples. You do your premarital counseling, you get married, and then it's sort of, okay, now you're on your own. When in reality, we've been to churches that kind of do a first-year marriage continue with couples, and that's really what we needed. Like, we needed a lot more input at that time in our lives, and we were almost instantly on output, both of us, where we were still at a stage where we could have used a lot more people speaking wisdom into our lives, and I hope we would have listened to it. I know that's another part of that equation. But yes, that would have been beneficial for us to really figure out that budgeting piece early.
Yeah. And another thing just came to mind on the finances. I wish that we had been a lot more aggressive with our student loans from the beginning. I think the Lord provided for us and helped us dig out of that. I had $40,000 right after graduate school with student loans, and it ended up being, thank God for it, but it's also kind of sad. When my dad passed, he didn't leave us a ton of money, but the majority of what he left us went to pay off student loans. Yeah. And I'm thankful for that, but that's also hard to feel like your inheritance
is just going to pay off your debt.
Just going to pay off debt. So if I had to do over again, I would have been just more aggressive.
Right. But here,
early years.
But with this whole topic, we like to do this because it's a reminder to help young couples who are starting out to get on, try to get on the right page in these things. But at the same time, here's how I see the enemy working and with this sort of do-over philosophy is sometimes we tend to remember the negative and not the positive. One thing I so respect about my parents, when they talk about their first year of marriage, it's, it was so much fun. It was such a blast. We had the best time at Purdue's campus, and I only hear the positive. Now, I know there were a lot of struggles, but I overwhelmingly hear about all the fun things that happened. And I'm just being honest that I realize that the enemy attacks me often by dwelling and thinking about the things I should have done better. And so when I'm doing that, it's actually stamping the negative into my brain, and it's erasing in many ways the positive. And that is also a big trap. Like I really appreciated our anniversary trip back to Hilton Head where we did our honeymoon because it helped to reignite the memories of the positive. So don't think you have to do these things perfectly. We give suggestions, but what you focus on is what you're going to remember. So I would say remember all the joys and the fun that come with being married, that, those early years of memory, and make sure those are what's stamped in your brain, not the struggles, not the trouble, but the problems.
Yeah, it's good to look back and learn and to assess, but it's not woulda, coulda, shoulda and wallowing.
You don't want to stay there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Well, when we talked about this question, we had more than just these answers. So we're going to do part 2 next week and continue this, I guess Marriage Do-Over is the title. But if we had to do things differently, what would we do? And we share more of our story in our book, Visionary Marriage. And we'd love for you to get a copy of that. You can get it wherever books are sold. You can get it on our website at visionaryfam.com. And we'd also like to give away 10 copies of that book. The first 10 people who email us at podcast@visionaryfam.com. Just say, hey, I want to get that free copy of Visionary Marriage. Just send us your name and address. And the first 10 of you that do that, we will ship that to you as a gift. We've got live events coming up October 15th near Jacksonville, Florida. I'll be there at a VFM conference with Lainey. We've got a parenting seminar navigating the difficult challenges of sexuality and sexual formation, especially with everything going on in our culture. That's going to be October 28th at Wheaton Academy in West Chicago, Illinois. We've got a Visionary Family Conference in Green Bay, Wisconsin on November 5th. And then the Visionary Family Thanksgiving Ball. This is a brand new event here in Chicagoland at the Abington in Glen Ellen. Get dressed up, dinner, dancing, family worship, interactive Bible teaching. It's going to be a great, great night. And you can get all the information about that event. That space is limited. It's going to fill up quickly. visionaryfam.com/ball. And we want to see you. So special thanks to Yair, our audio producer with Gap Digital, and Ryan and Duncan, our video team from Swim Media. That's Swim with a Y. And as always, we want to hear from you. Email us, podcast@visionaryfam.com. Send us your questions, your comments, your prayer needs, podcast@visionaryfam.com. And we're looking forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.